the rise of rage bait content, strict gender rule books. The original Tradwife movement brings to the table is not about saying women aren't as intelligent as men. Another common argument is that women have always worked. The modern model of motherhood is an unsupported mother. No one tells young women how hard. It was never about denying the value of an education to make life decisions that they won't regret long term. Fight of them versus us. Rise of regretful mothers. If we actually looked at the traditional values that uplifted women. The same people that criticize the traditional wife movement complain that their workplace, that their husbands, that society doesn't value them as a mother. Understand that the label Tradwife has been warped. The word Tradwife used to mean something warm, a woman who poured her love, her nurturing, her creativity into her family, who expressed her femininity, and who just lived her most authentic life. Along the way, something changed. The word became weaponized, the word became perverted. And today I want to talk about how the Tradwife movement and traditional femininity kind of lost the plot. Because at its core, it was never about oppression or silencing women. It was about honoring womanhood, creating a world where motherhood, femininity, and domestic labor was valued. So let's dissect it, and if you're ready to take it back to that positive narrative, please like the video, comment, subscribe, and I do want to give a big shout out to my members who truly do help carry the channel. So if you're interested in supporting my work, I will also link that down below so you can become a member as well. Also, little disclaimer, my kids are in the background. You might have, or you probably have already heard some sounds from them. I try to filter it out, post, edit, but it's not always possible. This is real life over here. So anyway, I wanted to start off by talking about the original heart of femininity. Traditional femininity was not about silencing women. It was about honoring them. It was built on the differences between men and women, not about inferiority. A woman's role wasn't seen as less than, it was seen as different. She nurtured, she created, she stabilized. Motherhood, hospitality, creativity, feminine power, these weren't extra things or bonus things. The message of the traditional femininity movement was to bring back how these were core elements of civilization and how we had lost them in our transition to modernity. A woman staying home wasn't supposed to be about like not needing them, about being pushed back. It was about seeing this vocation as respectful and worthy of being honored. However, as culture industrialized, as culture modernized, this concept of traditional womanhood, or the feminine woman pouring back into her family, back into her softness, was deemed as not useful. So it was painted as outdated and oppressive. And slowly, over time, this trickled to affect all women. We forgot the power of feminine presence. The Tradwife movement started with good intentions, about bringing dignity back to these roles. But online, over the years, I've been making content since 2018. It became a little bit distorted, especially with the rise of rage bait content and one-upping each other in terms of like the algorithm and how much your Tradwife content was put in front of a larger audience for the purpose of making money. Some made it solely an aesthetic, and others made it a strict gender rulebook. Meanwhile, critics dismissed the positive elements of this movement and how it fed back into womanhood and allowing different types of women to be seen, and they dismissed the entire thing with their criticism. Traditional femininity was never about being frozen in time. It was about building a soft and sacred space for certain women to thrive, which outflowed towards all other women, even those who choose a career path. It was about real service, helping other women, connecting with other women, giving a voice to women who have been silenced. It was about legacy, and it wasn't about performance. It was about how we didn't need to abandon all of the positive elements of tradition. We just need to elevate it and refine it. Instead of fixing the things about traditional values that didn't necessarily work, that were perverted, we have thrown away the entire system. We have replaced it with what I believe was truly a failed experiment. It glorifies over-independence, a burnt-out version of the ideal woman, separation of families, mother and child, separation of community, and a lack of home and peace. The original Tradwife movement was about reclaiming dignity in the elements that worked and making thoughtful corrections. Yes, modern life offers benefits. I love being a stay-at-home mom in 2025, but overall, it ignores the biological, emotional, and relational truths of being a woman. And when traditional femininity is entirely stripped away, it's women as a whole who pay the price. Even those women who do not want to seek a vocation like being a stay-at-home mom, housewife, all that kind of stuff. It strips away elements, positive elements of femininity as a whole that benefit all women. Let's talk about the concept of invisible labor, because it's a very trending topic now, and it reroutes back to the original Tradwife movement. It is the mental and emotion that women carry. It is not just folding the laundry, it is noticing that the laundry needs to be folded. It is not just packing lunches, but keeping a mental tally of all the things that your picky toddler ate throughout the week to give him a balanced lunch, remembering allergies, taking into account the other kids that are eating around him. It is the concept of a woman coming back from work and working her second shift. These concepts, although they're modern terminologies, are valid. They are not whining, they are reality. However, in the traditional wife movement, we believe that a woman's presence in this labor is not just a checklist. Its touch is sensitive. Its touch is intuitive. It's emotional. It is deeply feminine. A man can vacuum the floor, and yes, I believe that if you are in a marriage or if you're working outside of the home, splitting up tasks on cleaning to-do lists, for example, is important to lighten the load if you are feeling burnt out. But there are certain things innate to femininity and womanhood that are just not going to be intuitively understood by a man. And this is where the modern concept of emotional labor and traditional femininity differs. It's about honoring, providing intangible value of what a woman, quote unquote, brings to the table. It's not about superiority. It's not about a checks and balance game. It's about recognizing the uniqueness, acknowledging it as important, and elevating it. Modern culture taught women that they could have it all. And honestly, I do believe that women, technically, you can have it all. But traditional femininity acknowledged that there's a heavy price to doing it all. And when women break down, we tell them, you just need a good 5 a.m. routine. You just need to hustle harder. You can do it. But we never stop to let them know that motherhood means more than just your quarterly goals. Being a woman means more than just your economic output. Life of empowerment molded to femininity is inherently a masculine one. And I mentioned in my previous videos, I will link it above as well as down below. It's important to understand that women are different than men in that they need a well-rounded life, rest, rhythm, relationship, and recovery. And the model of success in a modern sense just doesn't fit what is the healthiest for most women. This is not about saying women aren't as intelligent as men. Women aren't as capable. It's about acknowledging differences and finding value in that beyond monetary success. The definition of success for a woman might mean her life is lived more in seasons, and that chunk that she takes to pour more into her family should be valued by society. And there's something inherently wrong from treating her as if she is a failure for taking that time away from the workplace, for example. It's about honoring sacrifices, but also the hard work that is done in that season, instead of shaming her for the decision that she has made. A common criticism of the traditional wife movement is that it enables abuse. And let's be honest, abuse exists everywhere. It is evil. It is predatory. But abuse isn't caused by traditional relationships. It's caused by abusive men. The job doesn't save you from abuse, and telling women that they should put their dreams aside of marriage, family, and forcing them into these roles of being completely burned out does a detriment to all women, because we turn a blind eye to what truly helps protect women, which is education, a community that rebukes abuse, and a community that honors self-worth and provides resources to women in these situations. A society that truly values women and femininity would despise abuse. It wouldn't protect abusers, it would confront them. A woman can still be soft, feminine and more traditional, but still be wise. We are not acknowledging the core issue when it comes to this. We are pushing women away from their dreams, and we are not fixing the core problem again with broken people and a society that, regardless of if it's modern, still doesn't take abuse seriously. I'd like for you to reimagine a world where homemaking is viewed as noble, where motherhood is honored, and where feminine needs are seen as human, not inconvenient. This isn't nostalgia. This is a blueprint, and this is what the original traditional femininity movement was about. It's a call to look at positive aspects that valued communities that uplifted women. It wasn't about copy pasting any type of society in the past, because I truly do not believe that there was a perfect society in the past, but it was a return to positive values that supported women, about cherishing what worked and leaving what did not. It's not about returning to the 1950s, it is about respecting women. And yes, another common argument is that women have always worked, but we need to look at modern society and be honest with ourselves. The work that women have done in the past was always near the home, and it was never this industrial model of 10 plus hours away from your child, including logging into a cubicle and putting your children in daycare. Modern society isn't set up for freedom, it's set up for fragmentation. We can't pretend as though we have fixed everything. True traditional living wasn't about isolation like it is in the modern context. It was communal. And yes, a stay-at-home mom solely herself at home wasn't totally the way that it was supposed to be. You had your mother, your sister, your village helping you. You raised children together. You were able to take more rest when needed. You worked adjacent to the home, for example, in fields or in a part-time way, or in a way that was more seasonal. The modern model of mother is an unsupported mother, a burnt out mother. And critics, instead of looking at what the positive elements of the traditional wife and traditional femininity movement are bringing forward in terms of supporting her, they are keeping their ears totally plugged to what we are saying when it comes to this. Education is a gift. Going to university, I had a great time, and honestly, when my kids are older, again, living seasonally, I would consider further education myself. I am pro-education. However, we've glorified delayed adulthood. We've ignored the biological factors of having kids later in life versus earlier in life. I recently went through a miscarriage, and I'm in my 30s now, and I had one in my 20s, and I will tell you that it was a very painful experience in my 30s because my body is just older than it was in my 20s. Even that 2-year difference between my kids, my second pregnancy was so much harder than my first just because I was older. No one tells young women how hard pregnancy can be. Instead, they push women into massive student loans, unstable job markets, and like this burden of having this large amount of debt that you are chained to oftentimes for the remainder of your life. Now women are heartbroken because they were misled. Tradwife movement was never about denying the value of an education. It was the nuanced conversation about talking about, for example, these two issues that I just brought up, and how we can better position women to make life decisions that they won't regret long term. It was about teaching wisdom and stewarding women to a wise path, not just blindly following the modern model that is set out for women these days. However, the message got twisted. People saw, for example, the topic surrounding education with a lack of nuance and criticized the movement as a whole. And so much was lost in translation. So much of this wise wisdom was lost in the interpretation and the gaslighting and the negativity that was just spewed on the movement. And going back also to people who used rage bait content to propel their own social media platforms, I found that a lot of women, without providing background information about why this decision was taken, how it was perhaps taken wisely in the context of that woman's situation, and further propel the online fight of them versus us, instead of meeting in a middle ground, seeing as a whole how women have been damaged over these past few decades and how we can restore a middle path. We are now seeing in modern culture a rise of regretful mothers. If you listen carefully to these women, they don't regret their children. They regret being pushed into motherhood alone, without support, without a village, without respect for motherhood. And the modern solution is just don't have kids, be child-free. And although that might work for a select few people, if you listen careful to these women, you will understand that that is not the answer. The answer is to restore value in motherhood and traditional femininity. It's about recognizing feminine fragility not as weakness, not as unstable, but sacred, hormonally positive, emotional in the best way, and human. It is about respecting when women say they need more time to heal their bodies, when they don't want to be separated from their baby, when they feel broken. You've trained society to say that women and men are exactly alike, so we have again lost the nuance of the conversation instead of looking back to traditional feminine values about honoring motherhood and womanhood. And instead, we have sought modern fixes to a problem that could be acknowledged if we actually looked at the traditional values that uplifted women. The same people that criticize the traditional wife movement complain that their workplace, that their husbands, that society doesn't value them as a mother, when that core value, even if you are a career woman, is what the traditional femininity movement sought to restore. Support, recognition, and respect for women and mothers. You can't reject the root and mourn the fruit. If you want society to see you, to value you as a woman, you have to start by valuing traditional womanhood. I understand that the label Tradwife has been warped and so many women are now rejecting it. And honestly, I understand, but it is so heartbreaking because this wasn't about social media, rage bait content, matching aprons, even though I love aprons, curated kitchens, a perfect rule book of what to do. It was about building a life of meaning, a life of joy, a life of balance. It was about acknowledging that you can still be a woman of strength, but you can be a soft, feminine one at the same time. You can create a legacy for yourself that might be different from the modern narrative. A life of peace, but a life that's not necessarily the perfect hashtag. Again, not necessarily a rule book, not necessarily strict perverted guidelines, but a life that embraced core positive traditional values while also acknowledging the positive modern ones. If this is something that resonated with you, I would really love it if you would hit the like button, leave your comments down below as long as they are respectful. I always value the feedback and furthering the conversation. Again, if you would like to support the message of my channel, I am going to link down below a members link. Help us together on this channel build something different, something balanced in traditional womanhood, and something that can be embraced without apology, without fear of being associated with something negative. See you next time, lovely feminine friends. Bye-bye.